Hi guys, it's the Power BI guy here, and today we're going to cover how to build this report. Now this is more of a tutorial now to duplicate this design within Power BI and some of the neat tricks that I do in order to create these visuals and format them the way that I do for this design. Now if you don't know how to create your calculations and measures, it's probably best to learn how to write DAX, but this is purely from a design perspective how you can duplicate this report following the steps that I teach. Now let's actually go over this so you can sort of see what I've created here. For example, in the overview page, we're switching states. So one page over here is net profit, the other one is total sales, and we can switch between our pages over here. So for example, if we click that, that will go over to our regions breakdown. This table, the way it's formatted, we have the ability to make this is a matrix table, etc. Department, and as you can see, it's a report where you can switch between pages. It has multiple pages and it's a pretty clean looking report. It might not be for everyone, but if you do want to replicate this video will help you. So let's, without further ado, let's actually start this video and begin creating this dashboard within Power. So the first thing that you want to do is adjust your page size. So we're going to come to the edit format, the formatting button section here, and then go to page size, custom, and we're going to set this to 1500 by 900. And now we have our page size set for our report. The next thing that I'm going to do is if we go to the view tab, I want you to select the theme Twilight, and then I want you to go to customize current theme. This is where we can set our color palette for this report. I will link this in the description. No, I will put these color codes in the description. So just copy them into your theme colors. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I might skip this part of the video slightly. Okay, so now that you've hit apply, what you need to do now is create your background. So what I'm going to do is if you go to the format tab here, scroll till you see page background, and then what you need to do is click the color, and then these are here at the top, so you applied these within your report themes, but I'm going to paste this in so you know exactly which color we're using. So for the background, you want to use 212529, and that is our page background. Now the next thing we're going to do is build our side panels. So I'm going to go to insert, shapes, and then rectangle. And then for our rectangle, the shape, we're going to make this slightly wider. We want to turn off the outline, and for the fill, we want to use, let me paste this in here. We are going to use 272B2F. And if we close that, we can see that we have the two contrasting colors. Now, what I want you to do is Control C and then duplicate that. Bring it to the left hand side and make this slightly smaller. Go back to your format shape and then turn on shadow, and then we are going to use an off shade of black so it's slightly lighter. And then one more thing we're going to do, no, that's all we have to do. Perfect. Now the next shape we're going to add is another rectangle. We're going to add another rectangle, but for this one we want to turn off the fill, turn off the outline, enable the background, and then for this color we need to use 212529. So I'm going to paste that, and then if I bring that over here, turn the transparency to 0, and then the next step, border, use the same color, so the latest one that we just used, turn the radius to, let's say, 7, and then plot this accordingly. So I'm going to make this slightly wider and bring that there. Perfect. And see, as you can see right now, it's clicking and it's a bit messy. We're going to do something to make this a background and not just shapes, but we'll get onto that in a second. So copy this 3 times, or copy this 2 times and bring that there. Now what I'm going to do is if you hold shift, you can select all 3 of these at the same time, go to format, align, and then distribute vertically. So format, align, distribute vertically, and that evenly spaces this out. Now let's work on the inside panels. So this side panel we used here, just copy and then paste that. And then this is going to be what you're going to place your visuals in. So for my example, and for the visuals that I'm going to use and how I want to show this data story, I'm going to shape it like this. And you can do this however you want to, but in my case, I'm going to do it like this. So I want one visual here, another visual there. Let's bring this slightly higher up. And then I am going to copy that, bring that on top, make this slightly smaller from the side, less wide and then less high. And then I'm going to copy, let's make this slightly less as well. And then I am going to copy that and bring that there. And let's make this less wide. And the gaps are a bit big, so I'm going to just shorten the gap slightly so it's a little bit more compact. And now we have our shapes. Let's round the edges a little bit more. So I'm going to shift click all these, go to, we want to turn off the fill. We're going to put background, and the color for this, we need our side panel color. So that is going to be 272B2F. Perfect. Let's turn the transparency to 0. And then I'm going to go to border, use that latest color, and let's set this to 9. And then these edges have now been curved. Perfect. But the issue right now is these are all individual shapes. So this is a really neat trick you can use. Because this is a Windows tool, search sniping tool, click new, and then what I want you to do is take a picture of this from the edge all the way to the other edge. And then file, save as, and set it to PNG. And then I'm going to call this background vid. I already have one, I'm going to replace that, but call that whatever you want as your background. Now, go back to Power BI, and we can actually remove all these visuals. So let's go ahead and remove all this. So I'm going to remove that, remove this. Perfect. Now let's go back, click the page, go back to page background, and then add an image. Bring in that image that you just took. And then right now, as you can see, it doesn't fit. We want to go to image fit and then change that from normal to fit. And as you can see, we cannot click these shapes, and now we have a background which you created in Power BI. Perfect. So now we have our template. Let's work with the header of this report and the text that we're going to use. So insert text box. Now the font that I'm going to use is going to be Segway UI bold or Segway bold, and let's set this to 24 and then white. And I'm going to call this sales dashboard. Perfect. Now we have our title, and that's the font that I used. And the next step, okay, let's do our page navigation. So what you need to do is create your additional tabs. So as you can see, I've created these tabs, but what you want to do is just create the tabs that you want in your page navigation. So these are your different report pages. What I'm going to do now is if you go to insert, buttons, navigator, go to page navigator, and let's bring that here. The next step is to edit this. So we want to go to the format navigator, turn off the fill, turn off the outline. Perfect. And now let's go to text. In the default state, we want to set this to text size 11, change the font to an off shade of gray, so the second one down. And then the font, I want to use semi-bold, Segway UI semi-bold. And one more thing, because this is the default state, but we need to look at the selected state, let's change this to Segway UI semi-bold, or let's do bold. So when we select something, it's bold, and then let's make this bigger. No, I'm going to go back to semi-bold. I prefer that. Perfect. Now, as you can see, and we could do the hover state as well. So let's do on hover. So when you hover over the buttons, let's make this go white. So at least it looks like you're hovering over the buttons. Perfect. And then what we can do is bring that there. Let's make it a little bit tighter. So a little bit smaller. Perfect. And then we can format this slightly different. So I'm going to bring this a little bit higher. Bring that a little bit higher to give us a gap. Amazing. Now, let me tell you the font that I'm using for my visual headers. So what this is insert text box, insert another text box. So these are going to be the titles of your visuals. I know these already. You can do this at the end. I'm going to do this now. So the first one is net profit by segment. So that's what my first visual is going to be. You might have this based on your requirements. This is completely down to you what you title this. Now the color, we're going to set this to the third gray, and we're going to use Arial, and then let's set this to 11. and then we have our first title. Let's make this shorter. So duplicate this for each of your visual headers in these 4 visuals here. So I've had that already. I'm just going to copy and paste that over just for the sake of time. Oh, it's always a bit iffy copying in Power BI for some reason. I need to click this so it knows I've selected, and then let me just bring that over. Perfect. Ooh, it's a bit fiddly, but there we go. I'm just going to put this in the right place so that it matches. So there we go, in that corner. And there's one more. I'm just going to copy and paste that. Average delivery time. Average delivery time, and then you can delete that. Perfect. Now the next font that we're going to look at is in these visuals over here. So what you want to do again is create a new text box, bring that over here, and then this for my visuals was unique orders, and then what I want to do is set this to Segway bold. I need to copy that. Segway bold. I'm going to set this to 14. Oh, let's make this a bit bigger. Let's set this to 18, and then use an off shade of grey, and then we have that. So duplicate this 3 times, repeat this 2 times, duplicate this 2 times for these 3 here. So I'm just going to copy and paste those over from my other page. And I need to drag this, just so I'm going to copy and paste just for the sake of time, and then bring that there. Perfect. And as you can see, Segway bold, Segway bold. Perfect. The next thing that I'm going to do is let's actually go into the visuals and actually how I'm formatting the visuals in my report. So let's start off with, so now the actual formatting of the visuals. So let's use our first visual. So now we're going to go into I'm going to go into the formatting of my visuals, and you can apply this to all your visuals. It's a similar principle for every single visual, but let's just cover a couple together. So the first visual that I'm going to use is let's use a clustered column chart. So clustered column, and then let's do, so this is segment. So I'm going to put my segment and then net profit. Just profit. Let me bring that into there. What is going on here? Oh, the color, you can't actually see it. That actually juked me there. Okay, so what we need to do now in order to format this correctly is we're going to turn off the title, go to data colors and set this to orange, and then let's go to data labels so we can see our labels. I'm going to set this to an off shade of gray. And now for the lines, they're a bit strong. So we want to go to the y-axis, come to the bottom here, and then change this to dotted. Now you can repeat this for every single visual so that you get dotted lines instead of that strong line where there's no gaps. And let's do another visual over here. So I'm going to do, once again, let's choose the line chart. I'm going to select my departments. So it's not departments, it's no departments. So let's select category, and then net profit. So profit once again into, let's change that chart, change the color. I'm messing this visual up. I need to do month in my axis. What am I doing? Month in my axis, month name in my axis. And then for my legend, I want the categories. So this is the split. So product category. Perfect. And now let's go to the format, y-axis, come down to the bottom, set this to dotted. And then what I need to do is format my data colors. So for my furniture, I'm going to use this orange. For office supplies, I'm going to use this red. And for my black, I'm going to leave that as that is. And if I make this wider, we have now created that visual. Perfect. But we need to take off the title. And there's one more thing that we need to do. If we take a look at this legend, it's not exactly in the best place. It's not easy to read. We want to go back to the format tab. and then set the legend to bottom center. So that is how you create your visuals in the format with the dotted lines. So I've brought in a few more visuals. Now let me just cover, I didn't show you what the formatting of this card was. So this is actually a card visual that has my measure in there. What you want to do to format it like this is go to the format tab once you place that in. For data label, you want to use Segway UI semi bold and set the text to 22 and then the color as white. Duplicate this 3 times for each of your different measures that you want to put in these different boxes. Now the design of the report is completely down to your requirements in terms of what visuals you're using, etc. So you might not even need these, but that is the formatting that I've used, so you can keep it consistent throughout your report. Now the next thing is this line over here. So when you switch between pages, what you want to do is go to insert, shapes, and then bring in a line and then format this. So what you want to do is if you go to outline color and then set that to orange and then make that smaller and then place that on your individual pages. So right now we are within the overview tab, so the overview page, I have placed that here. What you want to do is for your other tabs, so for example for region, you want to move that over here. So when you switch between your tabs, that line moves also. Now I've also added the addition of a zoom slider on this visual, and this is a neat thing that you can add to quite a few visuals. If you select that, go to the format button, you will see a selection for zoom sliders. What this allows you to do once that's been enabled is widen your visual, if in the sense where certain data is difficult to read or consume, you can make it easier by allowing yourself to zoom into that. So over here, for example, and then you can move that there so that you can read it. It's just a nice little feature that might be used. Sometimes it's not. Now, the next thing we're going to do is create our 2 buttons. So what I want you to do is go to shapes, go to blank and insert that. What you need to do is for your outline, you want to set that color to orange. And then we're going to go to shape and then round the edges to 23. And next for this state, as this is the current page, we're going to fill, enable fill, set that to orange as it's selected on this page, and we're going to set that to 0. And then for your text, enable, for your text, we want that to be, so on this page, it's going to be net profit, as we're showing net profit, and then set that to white. Now our next button has not been selected, so what we're going to do is duplicate this. Let's make this a bit smaller. Duplicate this button. Instead of in fill, we want to set the transparency to 52%. No, let's do 51%. Change the text, so we want to change this page state. So we're going to set the text to total sales, as we want to change the visuals on this page. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. You can do it either with bookmarks or you can set it as a separate page. What I'm going to do is duplicate this page. So duplicate overview, hide the page, and this is why earlier on in the video I told you to hide the page in the navigation bar. Hide the page, as you can see that removes it, and then we have this. Now on this page you can change your visuals to be total sales. So over here I'm using profit, but let's say I wanted to show total sales. So I can change this for all my visuals. So let me do that here in this example. Let me change that to total sales. And now I can change this name here to total sales by segment. You can repeat this for each visual, etc. Now on this page, we want to set the fill to 0% transparency. And this button, we want to set to 50%, as that's not been selected. Now, in order to navigate the pages, we have to click the button, go to format button, action. We're going to set this as page navigation. Then the destination page, we want to set to total sales overview. Now, there's one more thing that we need to do actually for this button. For the fill, the hover state, we want to set this to 0. So now that when we hover over this button, it looks like you're actually hovering over it. And if we select that now, that will switch us back to overview. Perfect. Now on this page we have to set the fill state to 0 and then total sales as 51%. And for this button we have to set the action to switch over to duplicate overview. That's what I've called